Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com for pricing. Today we are discussing one of the most talked about watches of 2021, 41 millimeters in stainless steel and black ceramic. This is the Zenith Chronomaster Sport, powered by a second generation El Primero caliber. The timepiece gained acclaim for its resemblance to a famous Genevois chronograph. Well, this watch is absolutely classic in its own right, as Zenith has always been about the movement, and frankly, the more you look, the less Rolex you see. So taking a quick look, you can see the watch is 41 millimeters in diameter by a reasonable 13.8 millimeters thick and surprisingly short from lug tip to lug tip, 46.7 millimeters. It has a spacing between the lugs of 20 millimeters. Now on my wrist, you can see it wears short across the wrist. My wrist is 16 centimeters in circumference, and the lugs come nowhere near the edge of my wrist. So if you're a lady, you could probably wear this watch on the strap. Well, it's more commonly pictured on the bracelet. On the strap, as you see it here, it actually does fit a little bit better on a smaller wrist. The strap is an uncommon piece, as most of these do appear to have been sold on bracelets. I recommend you get the bracelet and then buy the strap as an accessory, but getting it with the strap is a way to get it cheaper, new or used. The strap has a textile pattern on the top with a blue color. It's cobalt blue. It's not quite as dark as navy. There's a monotone stitch, and then it's sheer cut on the side. This is all leather. You can see there's a lot of leather used. It's a very thick strap. As with other modern Zenith straps, there's a rubberized inlay on the bottom to protect the leather from the heat, sweat, grit, and moisture of the wrist. So it makes it more comfortable, but it also extends the life of the strap. We have a trigger actuated double deployant clasp. The clasp features double folded action. You can see it is entirely polished internally. And you can also see that it uses ceramic spring-loaded pin snaps to ensure that over time, the tolerances of the clasp remain crisp and snappy. The twin trigger ensures that it cannot pop open by itself. You have to press both of them. And then there's a satin and a polished contrast for good measure to make it attractive. The case bears absolutely no resemblance to Rolex. This is where you find that the watch is most obviously Zenith. The lug hoods are satinated, the case flank polished, and then you can see there's a little bit of ducktail squared off profile to the lug ends, and there's a bevel that expands on the edge of the lugs but runs through the mid case of the watch. The bezel is black ceramic, all of high polish, highly scratch resistant, designed to shield the rest of the case. We have vintage inspired pump style pushers, a Zenith crown with Zenith logo, and then there's a little kerf underneath the crown so you can dig your nail in more easily. The watch is 100 meters water resistant. Now what you're looking at on this bezel is not a tachymeter scale. It's actually what they call the striking tenth complication. So whereas the El Primero has always beat away at 10 beats per second rather than the standard 8, 10 beats per second means you're really segmenting each second to the point that a human eye can't easily discern the difference. 1/10 of a second is hard to view unless you spread those seconds out over a large area. So each second is spread out over 36 degrees of the dial. Let's take a look at how that works in practice. We get this foudroyant action with a lightning seconds hand that makes it easier to gauge fractions of a second. So for example, right here, we have 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2 tenths of a second. It works just like that. It's easier to read. So we have chronograph tenths of seconds. We have a chronograph 60-second register, and we have a chronograph 60-minute register, which is quite useful because most chronographs don't give you a 60-minute register, they give you 30. Do note, however, you don't have chronograph hours. We have applique rhodium-plated steel indices, an upscale look that provides plenty of shine when the light is gleaming and glow when the light is not. The timepiece also includes those tritone overlapping registers descended from the historic 1969 reference A386. They continue to give the watch a distinctively Zenith face, and if you were to cover the center dial, the watch looks a lot more Rolex. With the center dial, it's more obviously Zenith. Now you can see the timepiece features a Zenith star counterweight on that lightning seconds hand, and in good taste, a little step down for the date, so it's not a sheer cut straight through the dial. There is a step once before you get to the date disc. Now the watch includes a feature historically not included on El Primeros. This is caliber 3600, remember, so you get stop seconds. You also get a quick set date. In addition to those features, you can see the movement is good looking, and it has this nickel anthracite coating to make it darker and more industrial. There is a blued column wheel that provides function selection and a crisp sound and feel at the pusher. We also have a lateral clutch, which you can see, aesthetically more pleasing and more traditional than a vertical clutch. That's why it's there. It's more beautiful. This movement has 10 more hours of power reserve than an El Primero caliber 400. So this is 60 hours of power reserve. It still beats away at 10 beats per second, just as every El Primero has since the historic first back in 1969. Pivots on 35 joules rather than the original 31, and it has an anti-magnetic and unlubricated silicone escapement to extend the intervals between services and improve timekeeping. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.